Spoiler warnings. At first I was going to list the predicate title as Don't Trust It, but that term applies to most visual novels with a set of choices, so I'm going to skip it. Not to mention, after platinuming the game, I got the utter joy to experience the full story of Death End Request. What an experience it was! From start to finish, I was emotionally engaged and invested. It starts with humble beginnings, but what Death End Request does best is keeping you invested with the characters. Even characters like Al-Astra, who I had disliked until pretty much the end, ended up with me rooting for their happiness and their escape through probably one of the most sadistic video games I've ever played. Ladies and gentlemen, should you buy this game and play it to completion? Yes to both, and I'll give some exposition as to why. There's so much to unpack here, but before I do, I must comment on the villains real quick. The villains are so numerous with differing roles, everything from Ephesus, which is basically Rabbit Thug Illuminati versions of the Cult of the Cosmos from Assassin's Creed Odyssey, to Victor Tailman, to Munakana being pressured into betrayal, to Lydia stabbing the entire Enigma crew in the back, to frickin' Aggle! Aggle! It's like if Google and Apple had a fucking love child of evil. Some of its themes are subtle, and some are just so fucking on the nose that your face gets punched in until the cartilage is shattered. Most notably, its anti-corporation, pro-conspiracy, vegan propaganda messages, as well as homaging series like Dot Hack and Sword Art Online. It's also crazy that it makes Alex Jones want to put down the tinfoil hat and cringe, or just be a freaking genius and profit over the situation. What carries the story through is its characterization. At first, I looked at Arata Mizunaishi as just the generic isekai main protagonist or harem main protagonist. Yet as he progresses as a character, he starts to really shine through. He gets beaten, punched, and even had a piece of his ear chopped off. Yet he showed loyalty and grit. He had been through scrapes, bruises, fights, beatdowns, harassment, and even police interrogations. Death End Request does a lot. Everything from its incredible soundtrack to its stellar character and environmental designs. Hell, even the 3D models are on point, which is oftentimes a weakness of compile art. There are some technical exploits you can take advantage of, such as running from a fight and getting away, even when cornered. You can escape the fight, or how there's a way to endlessly spam glitch modes on easy difficulty when 90% bug or whatever, percentage or more. The mechanics are a vastly improved version of Compile Heart's standard game formula. It is them stepping up their game, and quite frankly, even the mechanics are enjoyable due to the wide variety of attacks one can make. Oh, speaking of which, may I add that the glitch attacks are incredibly well designed. Holy hell, Celica's major attack is so visually jaw-dropping, yet so artistic in design that it has to be one of my favorite special abilities I've ever seen. There's just creativity dripping from every possible orifice imaginable. What's even more baffling, but absolutely incredible, is the execution of how the story breaks the meta. It brings a whole different level of meaning and purpose. It uses its meta in its own verse as a means to do a three-layered form of storytelling. From telling a story from Dimension 1, aka World Odyssey, to Dimension number 2, their version of the real world, to Dimension 3, the reality of the God of Death, King of Resurrection, Lydia, aka our world, and does so seamlessly. I must also mention that the soundtrack itself is so well crafted that I would put it in my top 10 game soundtracks of all time, right up there with Berseria, Legend of Dragoon, and the Devil May Cry franchise. It is so perfect in ambiance that it both blends well and stands out amongst its peers. My friend RCry100, subscribe to him and I please, put it best. Death End Request felt like a passion project, and I couldn't agree more. You can tell the staff involved loved every minute of what they were doing. Something I personally felt was lacking in previous Compile Art titles. Well, aside from Mary Skelters, so I take back that claim quite slightly. In other words, crappy titles like Dark Rose Valkyrie are creatively void. One of the most boring, uninspired pieces of trash imaginable is Dark Rose Valkyrie. In the end, passion inspires passion. This is the crux and ethos of my review. The passion Death End Request inspired within me was a combination of two feelings: personal attachments to the characters, therefore creating a feeling of belonging and friendship and adventure, the other being that of a person who just doesn't want to let go. I want to see more of this franchise. I personally don't want to be able to say goodbye. This game resonates with me story-wise, even though on paper it shouldn't. On paper, the core concepts are rather terrible. The thing is, somewhere amongst the editing process, someone decided to edit the story into something great. It started off as an SAO knockoff, but soon came onto its own as a singular, separate story, one of pure Baroque beauty. Something I don't want to live without. Sadly, all good things must come to an end. Goodbye, Sheena. Goodbye, Sumika, aka the Short Shorts Daisy Duke's girl. Goodbye, Ludens. Goodbye, Arata and the rest of the crew. We all had a hell of an adventure, and we all had it together. This was an experience I will remember for quite some time. Thank you to Compile and Idea Factory for creating an irreplaceable work of art, and thank you to the viewers for joining me on this journey. I have literally no idea how I'm going to find a series to top it. It will sadly lead to a vacuum of content in which I'll struggle to replace. Most likely, I'll do a list or two involving this game. Or maybe just my rankings list of all my Compile Hard games. Well, ladies and gentlemen, guys, I'm one man. Subscribe, follow all the things, and do all that. Do consider supporting me by tipping me on Stream Elements. Do consider donating to my GoFundMe so I can see y'all at Anime Expo. Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, to put in a quarter to try again. In the end, guys, the journey was worth it. I'm glad I lent you my hand. Arta, Sheena.